Good evening and welcome to 10 by 9, where 9 people have up to 10 minutes each to tell a true story from their own life. I'm Paul Doran, and tonight our theme is Pride. And we have teamed up with Belfast Pride. I was just wondering, Sean, if you're behind the bar, can you kill some of these lights for us, please? Because at our age, you want to look your best. This is a big night, so sympathetic lighting, please. And that's pretty much how we kicked off our 10 by 9 with Pride in Belfast Black Box on July 22nd. In front of a full house, we had a brilliant evening of love, heartache, and laughs.
And I took a deep breath. And I walked in. And the barmaid was topless.
Although in the middle of it all, I did meet and marry the Duchess, the love of my life and ruiner of my perfect gay guy CV.
If I invited her in, then she would think I was the sort of person who would wantonly break COVID guidelines. And she would think I was a terrible human being.
That's a little taster for you, but let's not hang around. Let's dive right in. And here's our first story. It comes from first-timer Caroline Boyle, and just be warned, there are 1 or 2 little expletives in there. Okay, maybe more than 1 or 2, but you know what I mean.
At this time of year, people ask me, are you going to Pride? Like it's a destination. Like it's one Saturday in July. A parade, a rainbow flag, a bank with a rainbow logo that quietly disappears again on the 1st of August. I smile and I think, maybe you've missed the point. Pride has never just been a celebration for me. Pride has always been a protest. And mine started in a red phone box, because this was Northern Ireland in the 1980s. Certainly not for a teenage girl standing outside. It was the time of Bronski Beat, Small Town Boy, Culture Club, Bananarama, the original all-girl band, and Eurythmics' Touch album with short-haired Annie Lennox on the cover. And it definitely wasn't safe to be standing out on a country road. Not when men in masks sometimes appeared out of the dark, sometimes with English accents and sometimes with Irish ones. At 17 on this night, politics didn't matter much to me. What mattered was either the possibility carried violence. And there I was, standing in a red phone box, frightened of what might be outside it, but even more fucking frightened what was inside me. I had a handful of 10-pence pieces, saved from my wages working at Jonesborough Market or babysitting, the 2 main teenage professions at the time. And I had a telephone number. To this day, I have no idea where I found it, because there was no Google or mobile phone, no ChatGPT. Just a number scribbled on a piece of paper and the words, lesbian line. I put another 10-pence into the phone and it rang, and a woman answered. I couldn't speak, not because she frightened me, but because my voice froze. I'd grown up hearing words from church and community and schools and the streets. Abomination, sinful, queer, faggots, disgusting and wrong. I knew all these words. I just didn't have any words for me. So I stood there, silent. But weirdly, for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Eventually, in a soft voice, she said, I can stay here. I can keep chatting if you like, or we can just sit in silence. Whatever you need. I carried those words with me for 40 years. And looking back now, I think that was the kindest conversation I have ever had. Not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't ask. She didn't ask me to explain or to prove anything. She didn't ask me are you sure? She didn't ask me to hurry. She simply stayed. I don't know how many times I rang that number. A few, enough. Enough to know that somewhere beyond South Armagh, there were people who didn't think that I was broken. Enough to believe that there might be a way to live. Enough to keep going. Years later, after many moves, I arrived in London on my own for work. And London? This was before Google Maps. I had one of those London A to Zs tucked into my back pocket of my jeans and a scribbled address of a queer women's bar on a bit of paper, copied from a leaf through Time Out. So off I went, page after page, street after street, completely convinced I was lost at every turn until eventually I found it. And I took a deep breath. And I walked in. And the barmaid was topless. Gorgeous. And a skinhead. Now, I've spent years terrified that anyone would discover I was a lesbian. And I'd finally actually made it to a lesbian bar on my own in London. And I was trying to order a drink, staring directly into her eyes. You know when your ma says, "Look at me when I'm talking to you"? Well, I was looking so intently into her eyes, she probably thought I was going to fucking propose. And all the while my brain was going, "Don't look down. Don't look down. For the love of God, don't look down." But she did have magnificent tits. And I did actually get that drink. And then I turned round and the stripper came on. Honestly, my wee Catholic South Armagh mind just couldn't cope. Like one of those cartoon characters where the steam's just coming out of your ears. My head just felt like it was going to go pop. And I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, is this what London lesbians do? It turns out no. It was just that happened in one bar on that particular night in one tiny corner of London. But that was the thing about finally finding queer, safe, brave spaces. Everything felt enormous. Everything felt possible, and everything blew my mind just a little. And that was freedom. Running drug-fueled through tube stations after gigs with gathered queer friends like wildflowers, all away from families who rejected us and places we didn't belong. All trying to find a home inside each other, even if just for these nights. But life still had teeth. One night a girlfriend and I came out of a gay club in Camden and were chased down the street by a gang of shaved heads, swastika tattoos, telling us they were going to fucking kill us. Thank the goddess for night buses. And the two huge drag queens who shouted, "Fuck off!" And that's why I struggle when people tell me Pride is just a party. No, Pride exists because people had to survive. The first Belfast Pride I ever went to, I painted my face. People assumed it was in celebration. It wasn't. I was hiding. I was terrified somebody from the village back home would recognise me. It wasn't just face paint for me. It was camouflage. And shame convinces you everyone can somehow see through you, like you're made of glass and the secrets are all on show. I'm 57 now, and I've moved a lot. Ma once said, "You could do with a fucking address book just for yourself," without realising why I had to move all the time. I was always thinking, maybe this one, maybe this is home, and then repacking, unpacking, moving boxes, and starting again. These days I have a little house and a garden, and I've discovered something. Nature has never asked me once to explain myself. The blackbirds are not one bit interested in who I love. And the potatoes don't care that I'm gay. Nature doesn't tolerate me. She doesn't even accept me. She simply opens her arms and lets me be. As Merely Oliver wrote, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And every time something grows in that wee garden, another part of me grows too. The frightened girl in the red phone box, the woman at Belfast Pride with the painted face, and the wee Catholic head that went pop. They're all growing. And you know something? I'm so proud of that 17-year-old now. She didn't feel brave. She didn't feel proud. She just kept putting another 10 pence into the phone. Last weekend I wandered around Belfast the start of Pride Week, and I brought a fridge magnet that says, "Still fucking gay." It made me laugh because straight people don't need fridge magnets reminding them of who they are. I wandered into a bar, loud with music, laughter and chatter, and realised sometimes you outgrow places and people. And later that day I found myself in a community garden, digging spuds, sharing tea, talking to strangers, coming home with a handful of broccoli and bay leaves, and I realised maybe pride changes shape. When I was younger, my protest was surviving, then it was coming out, and then it was marching without face paint. Now my protest is staying soft, showing up for people, staying sober, growing food, learning to teach yoga, holding recovery spaces, and being the person who stays, and refusing to become bitter even after heartbreak, always choosing love every time. People still ask me, is pride still a protest? Of course it is, because somewhere tonight there's another frightened teenager. Maybe they're not standing in a red phone box in the middle of South Armagh, but maybe they're scrolling on a screen. Maybe they're wondering if they are what society says. And maybe they are waiting for someone to answer. I really hope somebody answers. I really hope somebody stays. I really hope somebody says, we can talk, or we can just sit in silence. Whatever you need. Pride isn't always just about the glitter. It isn't just about the flags. Pride is still a protest. It needs to be. The protest against shame, against silence, against the lie that we have to earn our right to belong. And every time we choose kindness over judgment, and every time we stay on the line, the protest continues. This is for the woman who stayed and answered the call for me. Thank you.
Caroline, thanks so much. If you were nervous, it didn't show. Well done. I hope you'll be back with more stories before long. If, like Caroline, you want to tell your story at 10 by 9, the process is simple. Check out the themes on the website, then send your story through the submissions page. I'll give you feedback and help you make it the best it can be. If you're nervous, don't worry. Nerves are good, and the 10 by 9 audience is the best there is. Okay, on to our second story, and it comes from a regular who we've not heard so much of lately, but that's how 10 by 9 goes. I'm delighted to welcome him back to the podcast, though. Here's Paul Brady.
As a straight, white, married with children man in his 50s, I know exactly what it is to be gay. I know that's a hard pill for people to swallow, but through luck or design, I've always been an upbeat minority. As kids, both my younger brothers and I were forced to be inseparable by Rosie, our unashamedly doting older mother. We went everywhere together, played together, slept together, went to school together. We wore matching clothes, had matching haircuts, and mostly liked all the same things. We were all very pretty boys, grown up in the heart of hard and harsh West Belfast in the 70s. We've been called gay, or its brutal 70s equivalent, for as long as I can remember. In the 80s, we were all heavy metalers. We had long hair and earrings. We wore extremely feminine clothing. My brother experimented with makeup for a while. I tried too. I just looked like a pantomime villain. The words were updated in the street, but we were all still gay, apparently. Through music, we made lots of broad friends who didn't care where you came from, as long as you knew who the guitarist from Mama's Boys was and knew his nickname. That's Pat the Professor McManus, in case any of you non-metalers are here. Now we were prod-loving fruits into the bargain. The 90s rolled in, and all around was chaos. Sectarian death and misery were being served up on a daily basis. I, like everybody else, lost friends and families to random violent nonsense. Although in the middle of it all, I did meet and marry the Duchess. the love of my life and ruiner of my perfect gay guy CV. Also in the 90s, I started working for a corporate behemoth and travelled to the far east of the city. The Duchess was concerned. I told her what my dad always said. It's easy, big lad, he would say, to be like one of those mouthpieces who never leave their own wee area and shout constantly about themins. You can't ever hope to understand themins till you go where themins are and show each other that there's none to be afraid of. You'll find that most people are just people. The brave ones become friends, the weak ones keep shouting. I put on a suit and went to Dundonald. There was a quiet knock on the training room door. Everyone turned towards the sound. I stopped speaking. It was the early 90s and I was training a mixed group of older hospital staff on how to use this new technology called word processing on these new devices called computers. It was good fun, but very hard going, so I pretended to be slightly irritated by the interruption. I opened the door. A small old lady was standing there, prim and proper, with a matching coat and hat and a stiff, no-nonsense handbag. Yes, love, I said. I'm looking for Paul Brady, she said. That's me, I smiled. What can I do you for? I've locked my keys in my car in the car park. Okay. I went to the hospital reception and they said that there was a West Belfast Fenian. Working on the first floor. And he would know how to break into a car. They give me your name. Now, I think the reception had actually said West Belfast Catholic, but that was just semantics at this point. My room full of trainees began laughing, quietly and uncomfortably. I stepped outside and closed the door. As I handed the woman her keys 10 minutes later, I explained with a laugh that I had been taught the car braking technique a week previously by one of the peelers from Dundonald Station. She smiled and nodded and thanked me. She didn't believe a word of it, but it was the absolute truth. I was visited by the very same peeler a few days later. He told me it was now well known that there was a young Catholic man working in the hospital who was very easy to spot. He was well over 6 feet tall, had very long hair like a girl, and he drove a bright yellow car. I'd heard that the porters in the hospital had nicknamed the car the Pope Mobile. I also prefer to remember that the officer went on at length about how stunningly attractive I was, and that the danger might not just be solely sectarian, and that the uglier prods in the area had it in for me too. But I couldn't swear that bit. He did advise me, though, to start checking under the Pope Mobile every morning and evening, before and after work. He told me to start varying my route to work each day, and not to settle into too much of a routine for any length of time. I told him that he should also call down to the porter's office and let the new start there know the same information. He had started around the same time as me, as I had started in IT. What's he called? The officer said. I genuinely don't know his name, I said. Everyone down there just calls him Token. Token, he says. Yep, short for Token Tague. Later, I tried to make light of the whole on a kill list thing to the Duchess, so as her face was a little less worried. We knew that it went for the promotion out there, that there would probably be some issues. That was just the way of the world then. Things were changing, but very slowly. It could be worse, I told her. I could be Token. At least people call me by my actual name at work. And here, at least I'm not gay. Things are bad enough. The Duchess had started working in Belfast's first openly gay bar. I dropped her off and picked her up. I went in, lifted her wages, chatted with the staff and the clientele. We went to the weekly quiz there. It's a nice place, good crack. But there was always a palpable tension around closing time, an uneasiness about the world outside. I had been a minority for so long that I'd kind of forgotten to look out for the signs. The gay world was still a world of nods and winks back then. A world of who you were with and who you knew. A world where you could be refused entry to a bar unless you had your gay friend with you to vouch for your good character. That was the way of the world then. Things were changing, but very slowly. My dad's generation would not have been caught dead in a place like that. A man's reputation could be ruined at the slightest hint of association. The Duchess working there as a straight married woman with children was unheard of. It turned out that themins was just an umbrella term for anybody who just didn't fit the bill. Outsiders. Other. We'd long since learned that the trick was to just keep going where people thought you shouldn't go. And as card-carrying minorities, that's what we've tried to do ever since. The Duchess now owns a shop. It's literally the only Pride shop in the village. I like to stand in the shadows and watch the owlbirds from the church across the road, trying to make sense of the Mr. and Mr. Cake Toppers. My band has been playing at gay weddings and parties since way before it was cool and trendy to put it on your website for the virtue signal and likes. The Duchess and I regularly run the Pride quiz each year. Our 3 grown-up children have always had best friends that are gay and not gay best friends. There's a very subtle and very important normalising change in that wording. Nearly 60 years on then, I'm happy a minority yet again. As a middle-aged, white, straight, Fenian, married with children male. When I wrote this story, I sat at my desk and looked around my bustling department. The team that worked for me were young, male, female, Fenian, prod, Muslim, gay, trans, Asian, African, and all types of European. The head of my entire 22,000-person organisation was a woman. This is the way of the world now. Things are changing, but very slowly. So, I let those soft, smug kids tell me that as a boomer, I don't understand how the world works. I'm the worst demographic, apparently. Pale, male, and stale, they say. Troubles of the world are firmly placed at my door, of me and my ilk. In some ways, I suppose, they've a point, but I just smile and nod, because I just love their confused wee faces when I say to them, as I always say to my wife, kids, say it once, say it loud, I'm gay and I'm proud.
Thank you, Paul. Brilliant as ever. Hopefully see you soon. Now, just a quick thanks very much to all of you who help keep 10 by 9 going with your donations, either through Patreon or with StoryPig at our live events. You help cover our overheads and ensure 10 by 9 is free and always will be free. Okay, on to our third story on this Pride podcast, and it comes from Kirsty Mulholland.
There is a joke that 2 lesbians can be in love with each other for a couple of years before one of them finally says, hang on, is this a date? And this is how I knew that despite only having transitioned and come out 3 years earlier, I was definitely a real lesbian. There's also the other joke about bringing a U-Haul on a second date, but we'll just park that one for now. The joke, not the U-Haul. It was the 11th of February, 2020. I'd been on my own for a few years. I wasn't in a relationship. I never really expected to be in one, and I was okay with that. I had a nice circle of friends through an LBT women's book group that I'd been going to for a few years. And that February evening was another book club meet-up. I'd chosen the book for that month, and I had also even baked a few brownies for my friends. When I walked into book club that night, I noticed immediately that there were 2 new women there. I took the only available seat next to probably the older of the two. No, not old. She was about the same age as me, so young. She introduced herself as Teresa from Carrick, and I was instantly taken with Teresa from Carrick. She just seemed like my sort of person. Bit of a nerd, funny, obviously very smart. Smarter than me anyway, because I was convinced that she was in a relationship with the other new person. And oh my God, Teresa hated my book choice. Although she was much more positive about my brownies. But that didn't matter because she was with the other woman anyway. And although as we went our separate ways at the end of the evening, it became clear that they weren't together at all. So if she was with someone, that someone wasn't in the book club, and maybe there wasn't even a someone at all. Not that anyone as gorgeous and funny, as smart as Teresa would be interested in somebody like me anyway, but I still went home that night, looking forward to the next month's book club probably more than I had ever done before. Now, the next book club was scheduled for the 3rd week of March in 2020. Now, I don't know if you've any memory of this, you've probably forgotten. But back around March 2020, it became quite difficult to meet up with anyone. Never mind a group of 10 people for a book club. So we all discovered this amazing new app called Zoom. Zoom parties, Zoom quizzes, Zoom meetings, and of course, Zoom book clubs. And along with the Zoom book club, we began the book club WhatsApp group. We were on the bleeding edge of technology. But we lived an online existence until August that year, when through a sequence of events, way too boring to mention, Teresa offered to lend me her power hose to do my patio. And did I want to come round and collect it from her? And I thought, yes, I will do that. And that will be an excuse to hopefully spend a little bit of time with just the two of us and see how we get on in real life. And so we sat out her back, because heaven forbid that either of us would break COVID protocols by me going into her house. We chatted for over an hour and we got on like a house on fire. And somehow we also managed to establish that we were both currently unattached. Subtly. We agreed to meet up for a drink soon, and I drove home again, super excited at the prospect. The problem with this was you couldn't go for a drink or go anywhere. COVID lockdowns were back and the pubs were closed. Or everything was closed, really. Or if it was open, you had to go with people in your bubble. And Teresa wasn't in my bubble, much as I wanted her to be. Then around October that year, the cinemas reopened. But you had to sit 2 seats apart from the next person and wear a mask. But anyway, I asked in our book club WhatsApp group if anyone fancied accompanying me to see the cinematic masterpiece that is Bill and Ted Face the Music. I'll go, said Teresa. I had everything crossed that nobody else would go, and nobody else did go. I was going to the cinema with this amazing woman who was so far out of my league. Surely it couldn't be a date. No. There's no way it would have been a date. I really wanted it to be a date. But it wasn't a date. Or maybe it was. I'm still not sure. But we watched the film. It was quite entertaining. And then we went for a coffee and we sat for 2 hours until we got thrown out of Tim Hortons. Just friends. Only friends. There's no way I'd be lucky enough to be on a date with her. And a month later, another film. Wonder Woman 1984. We can pick them. Just the two of us going to the cinema together. But it wasn't a date. Definitely not a date. If it was a date, I am sure Teresa would have mentioned it. But she didn't. So it was just two friends going to the cinema, not a date. And again, we went for coffee afterwards. And again, we stayed there until we were getting thrown out. And this time, I'd offered to lend her a PlayStation game. So she followed me up to my house so I could give her the game. And she stood on my doorstep. And I wanted to invite her in. But if I invited her in, then she would think I was the sort of person who would wantonly break COVID guidelines. And she would think I was a terrible human being. So I fetched the game and I handed it over and she went home. Christmas came and went and January 2021 arrived, bringing with it the Delta variant of COVID. Back into full lockdown we went, and this time it lasted for several months. It was April before we came out of lockdown again. And then it took me a month or two to pluck up the courage to try and hold Teresa to that drink that we'd promised each other the previous August. But we did it. And in early July, we went for a bite to eat at Sozo in White Abbey, and then on for a few small pints at the Sipster. Now, you might think that the two of us going out for a meal, table for two, cocktails afterwards, on for a bit of a drink, might conceivably be a date. You might very well think that. I, on the other hand, was nowhere near as convinced. It was just a meal with a friend, not a date. Oh my God, I so wanted it to be a date. But it wasn't a date, was it? Whatever it was, we had the best crack for about 5 hours. Honestly, she is the best company I have ever met. And then just before midnight, my taxi arrived. I got up to leave. I put on my mask. And then at the door of the pub, she kissed me goodbye. On the cheek. Through a mask. Did I rip off my mask and kiss her passionately there and then? Did I bollocks? That's as sweary as I get, Paul. I practically ran to my taxi in confused shock. She was only giving me a friendly peck in the cheek. Surely, that was all it was, wasn't it? There's no way she'd be interested in me like that. But anyway, a week later, there was a group of us from the book club had gone out to see a film at the QFT together. I'm sure it was another work of genius, but I can't remember. But that included Teresa and me, and we sat beside each other in the cinema. And after the film ended, we went for a coffee with 4 other people, which is not ideal for making any declarations. And as we left the coffee shop, everyone else drifted away until there were just 2 of us standing sheepishly on the pavement in front of my car. Now what? I asked. Another coffee? She suggested. Aha. So she wasn't for just going straight home. I said the first scary thing of that evening, and the second would come about an hour later. I said, we could go back to mine for a cuppa. Yeah, if you like. So she got into her car, and I got into my car, and we drove to my house separately. And I watched her car approach the end of my street just ahead of me. And then I watched her drive straight past it. I thought, no, she has changed her mind. But she hadn't. She had just missed the turn. In she came, and I made her a cup of tea. We sat in my settee, and we chatted. We chatted about this and that for about 15 minutes, and I could feel this opportunity slipping away from me again. I knew I couldn't let that happen. And this is when I said the number one scariest thing. Rather abruptly, I just blurted out, I've something I need to tell you. Oh? What is it? Well, you know I really like you. Bloody pathetic. I really like you. What a hopeless declaration. Absolutely useless. But she looked at me and she said, I really like you too. And then for the first time properly, we kissed. Now there's a wee bit of an epilogue to this. Teresa then showed me texts that she had sent to her friends after the first time we'd met at book club, saying there was this one person there that she really liked. And it was me, by the way. How during the Zoom book clubs, she used to move my window to be beside hers so we could sit together again. And that time she borrowed the video game off me. She really wanted to come into my house, but was afraid to suggest it in case I thought she was the sort of person to break COVID guidelines. And there were lots and lots and lots of messages between her and her friends. trying to work out if those nights out were actually dates. And we still haven't decided. But anyway, on the 11th of October last year, exactly 5 years and 8 months since we first met at the book club, Teresa and I got married. And we've also been on many dates.
Ah, Kirsty, what a way to send us all home, overflowing with romance and love. Thank you. And great to have Teresa from Carrick there too. Congratulations to you both. And that's it for this podcast. Belfast is currently ringing with traditional music as the Fleadh has come to town. And Temba and I will be part of it with a special event in the Black Box on August 5th. It's really exciting, and that will provide the stories for our next podcast. Meanwhile, you can keep up with all 10by9 events and themes by having a look at our website, 10by9.com. 10by9 is on the socials, of course. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook and/or Instagram, and you can get in touch via email at 10by9belfast@gmail.com. Thanks to everyone who helped make 10by9 at Pride happen. Annette Whelan, who invited us to be part of it, Leanne, Margaret, Chris and Cara for their continued support, the amazing team at the Black Box, Belfast's best venue, and especially Sean, who very kindly did dim the lights. It's the little things that count. Massive thanks too to the fantastic 10by9 audience, who make everyone feel so supported, and thanks to all the people who shared their Pride story that evening, but especially Caroline Boyle, Paul Brady and Kirsty Mulholland. I'm Paul Dorn, and I'll be back with another podcast soon. But for now, bye-bye.